ix35 fuel cell long-term test, an attention-grabbing eco-car. If you swap cars reasonably often, or have done so recently, you'll be familiar with the sensations of getting comfortable with a different vehicle over time. A gear shift that at first seemed too long soon becomes second nature, for instance, or a grumbly engine that shocked you moves to being background noise. Never is this more true than when you jump in an electric car. Suddenly, you can hear the rumble of tires on the road for the first time, because it isn't drowned out by engine whine, for instance. You can pull out of junctions where you'd not even have risked it in a sports car, such as the instant torque. And, I must admit, in my case there's an undoubted calmness and composure that descends on my driving, especially in town, such as the peace and ease of travel. For a while, I pondered if this was the cause of another phenomenon that I encountered while driving the Hyundai, namely, that I seemed to induce minor road rage in drivers of high-powered vehicles. First, there was the Volkswagen Golf GTI driver who felt compelled to overtake down a high street, and then a BMW M3 driver who had to share his views at some traffic lights. Why so? Partly because of the aforementioned junction escapes. Other drivers aren't calibrated to the electric motors and think you've taken a risk, consequently getting annoyed as they jam on the brakes to avoid what they think would be a certain crash. Partly it's because I tend to drive more slowly, largely because I've become alert to saving power, by freewheeling up to red traffic lights, for instance. But the biggest reason, I've concluded, is because of the daft stickers that adorn the ix35 to ensure that it is a mobile billboard for the clever technology that lies beneath the highly conventional metal. I've no problem with them, but it seems like they are a red rag to a bull to many drivers who feel that anyone who needs to shout about their eco-credentials needs to be taught a lesson. Note to self, if you want to be a peace-loving eco-warrior, don't force your lifestyle on others. Price £53,105, after £4,500 government grant, price as tested £53,105 economy no faults none expenses none. Previous reports. I think there's something wrong with your car, said a woman, seeing clouds of steam emerging from the tailpipe of my just parked ix35 one cold morning. Her fears were raised further by the stickers declaring its hydrogen power. No fear, after a cold run, fans blow all wastewater through the fuel cell, lest it freeze, expand and cause damage. It comes out warm, hence clouds of steam in the cold. Previous reports. Enough about the fact that it's powered by hydrogen. What's it actually like as a car? Comes the cry from a reader, who not unreasonably reckons it's time for an update that doesn't mention, well, that this car is powered by hydrogen. The name should give you some clues. The ix35 preceded the Tucson, which was deemed to be such an overhaul that it deserved a whole new personality. That means the ix35, off sale in regular form in 2015, looks and feels a bit dated on the inside. There are more hard plastics than you might imagine and the switch gear is short on some finesse. Frankly, though, as a parent of two under 10s, I quite like that it is pretty hard-wearing inside, and I have few quibbles with the seat comfort or ease of use of the sat-nav and infotainment system, the two interior qualities I value most highly. That said, the interior is a league behind that found in the hydrogen-powered Toyota M3 and there is an argument that a cutting-edge car ought to feel it. Perhaps more strikingly, the steering wheel is on the wrong side. There's no economic sense in producing right-hand drive cars for so few sales, so it's a compromise with which buyers must live, Hyundai says. After a settling-in period, I've not found it to be much of an issue. Beyond that, the boot space is mildly reduced by the presence of the fuel cell in the back. Although the official stats put it at 436 liters, 155 liters down on the standard ix35, it hasn't stopped me using the boot once. All in, then, like all electric vehicles, the futuristic bits you can't see do little to detract from the fact that this remains a car-like car, albeit with environmental benefits and the joys of instant torque and near-silent travel. The ix35 makes for decent family transport and I could well see it as a practical delivery car or taxi, should the powertrain I can't mention, tax benefits and all, make more business sense when weighed against the asking price. Price £53,105, after £4,500 government grant, price as tested £53,105 economy no faults none expenses none. Previous reports. There's a slight step up in the ix35's boot floor. It's necessary to accommodate the 104-liter hydrogen tank. If you could still buy an ix35, you'd compare the standard car with this one and note the reduction in boot space from 591 liters to 436 liters. As it is, I've yet to discover a situation in which the ix35 FCV can't cope, even when carrying 4 people and their luggage. Previous reports. Chances are you know that a hydrogen fuel cell car produces only one tailpipe emission, water. And if you didn't know, you soon would. If you followed me in the ix35 FCV, with its side graphics and pertinent rear window statement, as well as an occasional but pronounced expulsion of water from the tailpipe. But the ix35 also purifies the air as it travels along, collecting harmful particulates and trapping them as a byproduct of the process of generating electricity via the hydrogen fuel stack's inner workings. Keep the filters, humidifier and fuel cell stack properly serviced, and you can have a positive impact on local air quality. To demonstrate this, Hyundai has produced a video that involves filling a giant polythene ball with air, topping it up with a mixture of particulate pollutants of various sizes to match the equivalent of what a typical human would breathe in over 100 years, and then sucking them through the ix35 FCV's system. The expelled air is pumped out of the tailpipe into another polythene ball, which the firm's senior R&D representative then sticks his head in and inhales enthusiastically. Bar water vapor, it's entirely clean, and further proof that environmentally friendly transport needn't be a myth. Price £53,105, after £4,500 government grant, price as tested £53,105 economy no faults none expenses none last seen August 2, 2017. Previous stories. The limitation of hydrogen fuel cells. The Hyundai is a remarkable car thanks to its hydrogen fuel cell, yet it is positively unremarkable to live with. For all the technical wizardry going on out of sight, I am going from A to B with scarcely a care in the world. With the refueling infrastructure in its infancy, there is the issue of range anxiety, but even that's hardly an issue. I can comfortably get 200 miles from a tank, so I haven't ventured beyond the Heathrow and Teddington fuel stations in southwest London. But should I need to, existing fueling stations make trips to the south coast, West Wales or as far north as Sheffield possible. But there are barriers, because, as with battery electric cars' charging points, not all fueling stations are run by the same people or on the same terms. You need to pre-plan journeys and make sure you're registered to access the fueling stations, and therein lies an infrastructure challenge that needs addressing. I've no doubt the issue is holding back EV adoption, and it has the same potential to restrict the uptake of hydrogen cars. Likewise, I've had to adapt to how the ix35 uses fuel. As you'd expect, as speeds rise, so does consumption. In eco mode at 60 miles per hour on the motorway, it uses fuel pretty much as indicated, a mile for a mile, but go faster and it drains exponentially. The same is true of other EVs and, in truth, fossil fuel cars. Mentally adjusting to this has taken time, but there's an argument that all drivers would do well to learn the lesson of haste versus speed and the economical and environmental benefits of it. Refueling is now second nature. It takes about 7 minutes from activating the security gates to leaving again, and, clanking and chugging of the pump aside, it's very similar to refueling the old school way, and the per mile cost is working out at the equivalent of about 60 miles per gallon. Hyundai ix35 fuel cell. Price £53,105, after £4,500 government grant, price as tested £53,105 economy no faults none expenses none last seen January 18, 2017. Read our previous reports here. Refueling is child's play. First report. Truly pointless, £55,000 pointless in fact. A Model 3, next-gen Leaf or 2018 Ioniq could all out endure this hydrogen car. The EVs cost less to buy and fuel. Clean air and environment? How many kWh does it take to split water for 1 kg of H2? Then how many kWhs to freeze it, squeeze it, lorry it, sink tanks into the ground, pump it into the tent then pump it into the car? Why does no one apply the long tailpipe question to hydrogen cars? Like electricity, it all comes from someplace. The author must have realized he needs a new calculator. Think about it, if it costs £56 to fill and I can comfortably get 200 miles from a tank, say 250 to empty, then that's 10.6 gallons worth of diesel per 250 miles. 250 divided by 10.6 works out to the equivalent 23 miles per gallon. Autocar, stop misleading readers. I remember the Flat Earth Society banging on about how useless electric cars were and how they'd never make sense. They also said that about diesel cars' power outputs and the disaster that was smog reduction in the 1970s. 150 bhp Corvette, anyone? With the speed that alternative power production from wind, sea and sun is going, there's a good chance that hydrogen production costs will drop through the floor in the next decade. We might not gain much benefit from solar power, but there are a lot of countries that do. What do you expect them to do? Sit on their hands until the cost drops? I can't believe any society